Hey traders, what's going on? It's Chris at VerrilloTrading. Hope you guys are having a nice day. Welcome to this video. In this video, I'm going to show you guys how to perform an accurate backtest using the software Sierra Chart. This is basically a method for backtesting automated trading systems that you create using their advanced custom study language in C++. So that's what it's going to be about, and we're going to talk about backtesting and accurate backtesting. And honestly, I would say that this method of accurate backtesting is probably not supported in any other software that exists for retail traders. And the reason for that is because you can perform a backtest with the historical market depth data, which is the live order book at the time that the market was trading when you're replaying it, right? So right now you can see there's an order book there while this replay is running, and that's actually the historical market depth data. So in this video, I'm going to show you guys how to get that and how to do your replays with that. So if you enjoy this content, guys, remember to support the channel. If you feel like it, you can click on the first link in the description. That's an easy way of doing it. All right, let's get to it. So the first thing I want to talk about is basically what is backtesting and why backtesting is important. So I've been trading for more than 4 years, and in this 4-year time period, I have not really got into backtesting. And I think the reason for that is because I never really got into algorithmic trading or automated order executions until now, of course. And I realized really the true power behind backtesting. So reason backtesting is really good is because you can gather trade statistics very quickly. Now, of course, you want to have a method of backtesting that is accurate and representative to how the market will actually fill your orders in a real live environment. And I don't think that there are many services out there that exist that can actually do this, especially when it comes to backtesting some sort of a short-term niche, maybe even a high-frequency trading system. So that's sort of the bottom line. So I think that the software that I'm using here is very powerful in the sense that I can run a client-side algorithm that responds to certain conditions that I tell it to place orders and pull them out. And it can also, have that accuracy for tracking the queue position of my orders. I think that it's made me a better trader by being able to gather a lot of trade statistics in a short amount of time and basically see if a method is profitable with the conditions that you provide it, right? What's really good about writing automated systems is that I would say they are much more disciplined than any human trader will ever be. But they're also, in a way, less flexible than a human trader would be. For example, an experienced discretionary trader has certain nuances and intuitions that they know about the market, and maybe even they use other tools in their trading. Potentially they incorporate high time frame, low time frame, market fundamentals, market sentiment, and they're incorporating all these things into their intraday trading. And in general, the goal is to make higher quality trade decisions on a lower frequency potentially than a HFT or another system would make if it didn't have as much selectiveness incorporated to it. So what's interesting about the backtesting is that the way I've started to do it is I have a system that is sort of a high frequency system, but it's not a super high frequency system. The way I've backtested it so far is in a way that is not very selective. Basically, I'm running two-sided markets and I'm just letting it run and just see what kind of statistics it spits out. What I've also noticed is about the way that I trade the markets, the way that I actually trade the markets is not exactly the same as my algo would be trading it here, because of course when I'm trading it live, I'm incorporating other aspects like market context and little nuances from the market profile and other things that help me to make higher quality trade decisions. So I haven't incorporated those things yet into the algorithm because I'm taking it one step at a time, basically. So I'm seeing how it performs without the selectiveness first, and then I'm going to slowly add in elements of selectiveness, and it's going to be a pretty tricky process because I'm going to have to, try out different tests with the selectiveness and then without the selectiveness. And I'm going to tell you about how you can do all of this in Sierra Chart, the most effective way to run multiple back tests over the same time frame of trading data. So let's get to it, guys. How to run a back test in Sierra Chart. Let's do it right now. The first thing is days to load on the chart. So I'm going to stop this back test on both these charts, and I'm going to cancel off these orders. So we're going to set up a back test here, a market replay back test on two charts at once here in Sierra Chart. And we're going to do it step by step, showing you exactly the steps that need to be taken before you run an accurate back test and why you need to take these steps. So the first step is you need to make sure that your chart that you're going to replay has enough days loaded on it that it can go back and replay the day that you're going to replay. So for example, if today we are July 26th and you want to go ahead and replay Monday, July 11th, you need to make sure that you have at least 15 days of data loaded. So 2 weeks plus an extra day. If you don't have 15 days of data loaded on your chart, you're not going to be able to replay that day, of course, because that's how it works. So you go into your chart settings for your chart, or press F5 when your chart is selected. go to your data limiting, and then here it is right here, days to load for intraday chart data type, 16. And actually, before you set this setting, you need to actually make sure that your data and trade service settings is allowing you to download this many days of data on your intraday chart. So you're going to go up to global settings, data trade service settings, then go to common settings, and over here for your maximum historical intraday days to download, if you're testing on tick by tick data, which is probably the most accurate data that you should be testing on, this number needs to be set to also the number of days that you want to go back in the past and replay. So in this case, it's set to 14. And what I'm actually going to show you is that I think it will support my chart going back further than that. So if I go and select days to load for intraday chart type and I set it to like 20 days or something and I apply that, now it'll load those extra days onto my chart. And I can do Control-Alt-G to go to date time here. And you can also access this in the, I think it's File or Edit menu, but I prefer the shortcut. And I can actually go back a certain amount of days here. So let's say I go back 19 days. You can see that this data is now on my chart as well. But I don't think that this data is tick by tick data because I've limited it to be 14 days of tick by tick data. Definitely, if you require an accurate backtest of your trading system, I would recommend doing it on the 1 tick data, which is your intraday storage time unit should be set to 1 tick. It's going to be a slower backtest because there's more processing that needs to be done because the intraday data storage time unit is the smallest amount possible. But you're going to result in a more accurate representation of how your system is going to actually perform. So that's important. The next thing is downloading the historical market depth data. This is arguably probably the most important thing for running a backtest. So like I said near the beginning of the video, being able to run a backtest or test a trading system with the ability to also use accurate Q position tracking with this historical market depth data, this is a very powerful feature because it's actually giving you an accurate representation of if your orders are being filled or not. So the first thing is you want to make sure that when you're doing your backtest that you're enabling the accurate Q position tracking, and that's enabled through trade and then chart trade settings. Then you scroll down to the bottom, the very last setting here, position in Q, and you want to enable that to yes. Now again, a setting like this is again going to require more processing power because it's doing more calculations, but it's going to result in a much more accurate backtest because if this is not on, what basically is going to happen is that when you have your orders working in the market, your Q position is basically always going to be 1 in the Q at all times. And that's not going to be very accurate. So you don't want that. It's going to result in your orders always getting filled or getting filled a lot more often than they should be than if you were actually trading a live market. So if we look at this market right here, the S&P 500, if you look at the order book here, you can see there's around between 50 and 100 at every price here. So basically 100 of these have to trade or pull away before your order is next in the queue if I place a limit sell order right there. Okay, so we're going to go back and download the historical market depth data. One setting you need to check is global settings, then Sierra chart service settings. These two settings right here are responsible for the historical market depth data. If you enable this setting, which is support the downloading of it, I think it will automatically download the historical market depth data for the trading days that are passing, one by one. But what I prefer to do is keep this off and go and download the historical data manually afterwards. So this setting right here is the maximum historical market depth data that you will be able to download in the past from the current trading day you're at. Normally this might not be set to a high number. If it's set to something like 5 and then you go back in the past and you try to download market depth data, what's going to happen is, let's say I go back in the past and I try to download the market depth data on this date right here, which would be 14, 15 days in the past. What's going to happen here, since I only set that setting to 5, is I'll only go back 5 days in the past and it'll only download the depth data here from the 21st of July in this case. So if you plan on downloading depth data for many, many days in a row, you're going to have to increase that setting to a larger number. Okay, so I'll go ahead and increase it back to 20. The next thing is you actually have to go in and download the depth data. So again, I'll use the go to date time feature in Sierra chart. So I'll press Control-Alt-G. For this example, I'm just going to go 1 day in the past and I'm going to type a 0 here, which is going to start it at midnight. And you can see now that the chart has been brought to midnight on July 25th. Now the next thing you do is you right click on the chart while your crosshair is hovering over the correct date time, which in this case it's aligned with midnight. You can see at the very bottom of the screen there. I'm going to right click on the chart there and select download depth data from date time. Now if you don't see this right here, you can add it to the chart shortcut menu by going to global settings, customize chart shortcut menu, And then it should be one of the top settings right here called download depth data from datetime. So you want to add that in. Okay, so now I'll click on the chart again, right click, and then click on download depth data from datetime. Now when I click on this, I'm just going to confirm the download. Take a look at the status bar. We have a DL1. What that indicates to us is that we have something that is currently downloading. Now, if you look at your message log, it's also going to give you information about that. So right here, it's saying that it's receiving market depth data for this symbol starting on this date right here, which is the 25th of July. When it is finished, you'll get the message that pops up telling you it's finished. All right, so here's the message. We've received market depth data download completed for symbol ES, and it basically tells you how long it took to download and the date, time, start, and end for the records that you downloaded. In this case, I downloaded it from the 25th of July until the 26th of July to the current time right here, which is 2:03 p.m. And it downloaded 38.1 hours worth of market depth data. All right, so now these files for the market depth data, you can access them in your Sierra Chart installation folder. I'll show you how to do that really quickly. So normally Sierra Chart is installed to your C drive. So you go to Windows C, Sierra Chart, then your data folder, and then this folder right here, market depth data, click on that. And this folder is the one that will contain all of these depth files that you've downloaded. And you'll be able to see all the dates that you have for the depth files. So if you ever run into that issue where you're not downloading all the days that you want, it's probably that setting I showed you earlier, which is the maximum number of days to download. So you have to set that to the number of days that you want to actually download in the past from the current day. Okay. If you don't need these files anymore, say you're done with them, you can just delete them straight out of this folder. All right, perfect. So let's go on to the next step right here. And we're going to set up this manual replay backtest. So the first thing is, if you are running a replay and you're running an automated trading system, you actually need to select trade and make sure that auto trading global and auto trading chart is enabled. So check these options right here. Because if you do have a study that you created in Axel that sends orders, they're not going to be sent if these are not checked. And what will happen is you'll get a message in your message log saying auto trading is not enabled, order was not sent, or something like that. Okay. The next thing we'll do here is start the replay. Now, actually, when you're doing a replay backtest, it's recommended to disconnect from the data feed because you do not need to be connected to the live market data feed or any trading service when you're running a backtest. In fact, it's advantageous to disconnect. So what we're going to do is use the replay control panel to start a market replay. And I'll just show you how to get to this menu. You can actually go to chart and then replay chart. That's one way to get here. Or you can press Control R. I prefer to press Control R, it's just faster. Now, when it comes to replaying charts, there's a few different methods you can use, and I'll just kind of briefly explain them. So the bottom line is that you want to be using this method right here, Accurate Trading System Backtest Mode. The reason you want to use this method is because it's, according to Sierra Chart's documentation, it's the balance between efficiency and precision, that you're going to get the same result every single time you run the backtest. Now, there's a couple of issues here that I ran into over doing these backtests and trying to run a backtest on multiple charts at the same time. And I'm going to show you how I got around this. So we'll go ahead and start a backtest on a single chart, on this chart right here to start. And so I've selected Accurate Trading System Backtest Mode, single chart, and you can also tell which chart it is at the top of this control panel here, and it will change depending on which chart you've clicked on. So in this chart book, I only have 2 charts. So whichever one you clicked on last will be the one you're going to be starting the replay for. So single chart, then you use date time, then you have to select the date time right here. So the date and then the time. I'll show you a couple tricks with the time. So you can just type a number here and it will know what time that is. So if I type a 3 and then I exit out of that, you can see that it defaults to 3 a.m. If I highlight this and type a 9, it's going to default to 9 a.m. So that's just a quick shortcut that you can use there for the time. Okay, and then you can choose the speed that you want to replay at. It's supported to go as fast as, really fast here, but I wouldn't recommend doing it this fast, and I'll describe to you why in a few minutes here. So for now, we'll just select 1 and I'll play this. Okay, now when it comes to the clearing of trade data, we have 3 options right here. We can clear the trade data from the start date time of our replay for the symbol and account that we're going to be selected to trade on here. Or we can clear all of the trade data for the symbol and the account that we've selected here, or clear nothing. Now, this is a bit important here. So when you're running backtests, let's say, for example, you're running your trading system and then you want to do a test with one condition enabled, and then you want to do the same test with a different condition enabled, and just to see how it performs on and off, right? What you'll do in that case, in my opinion, is you would probably want to use the Sierra Chart Trading Evaluation Service and then configure multiple trading accounts within that trading service and then run the backtest on a different account. For each time you run it on the same data set. Right now, I'm just connected to my trading service, which is the Teton CME order routing, and I'm on trading simulation mode. So this is fine. If I reset the trade data here, it's fine. But like I said, in the case that you want to test the same data set and then you want to test it once with a condition on and then again with the condition off on the same data set, then in that case, you want to connect to their other trading service, which supports the creation of many different simulated trading accounts and selecting between them. So in this case, I'll just clear the trade data from the start date time of when I start the replay, and I'll press OK, and I'll let this load here. So it will load in the depth files, and now that it's ready to start, I can press play. And because we're only replaying one chart, you'll notice that the replay is very accurate, and that it really pretty much looks exactly like what the market would be in real time. And I can speed this up to any speed, and you can see that it will be pretty accurate. And what I've noticed in my tests is that replaying a single chart using the accurate trading system backtest mode has been the most accurate representation of what the market is actually doing. And it seems to be the fastest regarding how it's processing the data. When it comes to replaying multiple charts, this is a little bit problematic, and I'll show you how to do this now. So if I stop this just really quickly here, and I'm going to select to replay charts with the same link number, because I have these two charts here, chart 1 and chart 2, set to the same chart link. If I press F5, then go to linking, I set them both to link number 1. Okay, so now charts with the same link number, what's going to happen if I do this replay is it's going to replay both of these. Now, what happens when you replay them this way is you're going to get prompted with another setting. And another thing is regarding the clearing of trade statistics data, when you press play here and you get prompted with this menu for clear trade data, this is only going to clear the trade data for the symbol that's selected on the top of the replay control panel. It's not going to clear all the trade data for all the symbols in your chart book. So if you're replaying two charts at once, it's still not going to clear both of them. It's only going to clear one of them. So what you do is you start the replay, clear the statistics for one symbol, and then what you do is you stop the replay, click on your other chart, and then start it again and clear the trade data, and it's going to clear them for that chart again. All right, so now take a look what happens here when I do the replay for charts to replay with the same link number. So I'm going to get prompted with this other setting right here, which is enter a processing step in seconds. Now, I found this to be a little bit problematic for my own system of trading. Because what this does here is that it allows you to replay the market much faster, because what it's doing is it's taking the intraday data file for your charts and it's splitting them up into processing steps, and then it's only processing them one step at a time. So if I set this to 60 seconds here, what's going to happen is you're only going to get 60 seconds of data that's processed and then another 60 seconds of data that's processed, and it's going to move like that. So what this allows you to do is replay your chart at very fast speeds. But this is not advantageous. In fact, this is very no good if you run a trading system that is reacting to pretty quick price action conditions. So I really do not prefer to use this method, and I'll just show you what this looks like. Even if I set this at 1 second, and by the way, this does go sub 1 second. So if I set it to, I don't know, 0.05, which would essentially mean 20 times per second, and I set it to OK, and let's start the replay for that. And you'll kind of see how it looks. It's going to look a little bit more choppy than if you replay one chart at a time. Okay, so I'll press play here, and we're set to times 10 speed, and you can already see that on both charts it's replaying properly, but it does look a little bit more choppy than what I showed you previously. Okay, so you saw a trade get triggered there. That's actually because I didn't clear the trade statistics data on that symbol. So if you ever see trades get executed on a market replay, it's that's the reason for that. It's because you didn't clear the trade statistics data and it's replaying past trades that took place. So definitely if you're doing a replay backtest, you want to make sure that all your trade statistics data for the time period that you're going to replay is cleared. So like I said, you can see here that the charts are a little bit choppier. They're not necessarily as precise as I would like them. So what you can actually do, I discovered that you can actually use a single chart replay for individual charts at the same time and replay them at the same time. So take a look. This is what I'll do. I'll go back to the replay control panel and I'll change it to single chart. I'll select this chart, which is micro NQ, and I will press play here and I'll clear the trade statistics for that symbol. It's not played yet, but it's prompted to play. It's paused, right? That's actually a good feature, that when you press play, it starts off in a paused state, and then you actually have to press play to make them start. And then after that, you click on your other chart, and now it's prompted for ES, and you're going to also press play on that one, clear the trade statistics data for that one, and we're set to charts to replay single chart. It's loading in the depth files. And then you just simply press play there, click on the other chart, press play there. Now they might not be perfectly in sync, but that doesn't matter because your trading system is running individually on both of them at the same time. You know, unless you're requiring a condition from one chart to trigger a trade on the other chart, then this should be fine. So now what I'll do is I'll enable my trading system that they're both replaying at the same time on a times 10 speed. So I'll just enable a sell side condition and a buy side condition on both charts, and you'll see how it is now starting to replay, and it's basically back testing my system. So there's a message that appeared in the log, buy orders canceled, because that's an element of selectiveness I put in the strategy. I'll just move that over for now. And you can see now this is running on a times 10 replay, and it's back testing my strategy, which is running two-sided markets with very limited elements of selectiveness as to where it's choosing to not decide to trade. And I guess the critical thing to understand with all of this is that there's a limit to how fast you can replay it. And of course, okay, so number one is your code needs to be efficient. If you wrote inefficient code where you're making like multiple calls to memory over and over and over again, like maybe, 20, 30 times in the span of your entire study function, then that's going to make your code less efficient. So you definitely want to minimize the calls into persistent memory to try to optimize your code to make it run faster. So what I've done is I tried to basically increase the speed of the replay to the point where I can see that my client side is starting to have trouble now reacting to the price action, and it's doing things that are incorrect based on how I coded the system to work. So what I notice is that when I start to increase it past 30, 60 times speed, that's when I notice it starts to mess up a little bit. But it also depends on the amount of trading activity that's in the market. So for example, if you're backtesting a system in overnight trading, I've noticed that I can speed this up to as fast as 100, maybe even 200 times faster, and it runs actually fine. My client side is actually fast enough, and the code runs flawlessly, and it executes, and it moves the stops, and it does everything that I want it to do. But as soon as the market opens at 9:30 a.m., there's a burst of trading activity that comes into the market. And then if you have your replay running at 200 times speed, you're going to notice it's probably going to start glitching out a little bit, because remember, it's processing that intraday data file, and there's a lot of data because of that burst of data at the 9:30 open. It has to process so much more data at once, and you're trying to do it 200 times faster than the speed of the market. So logically, you might see a couple of lags there. So what you're going to see now is the stock market is going to open here, because we're running the replay right before the stock market open on the date of July 12th. And you can see now that the market is opened, it is not allowing trades anymore on the ES because there's a condition in my system that doesn't allow it to trade right on the open in the first 5 minutes of the open. So we were in a trade on the NASDAQ, we got stopped out of that one, and now no more trading until 5 minutes after the open is passed. And you can already see how the charts have speeded up drastically, of course, because there's a burst of trading activity here. So if I was running this on a really fast replay, everything would have lagged out for sure. It would have been an absolute disaster. So definitely you want to be careful of that for sure. Okay, so I'm going to let this play out here, and I'm going to gradually increase the speed of the replay. Okay, so now we're starting to see orders come in, which means that 5 minutes after the open have passed. We're in a trade. We almost got stopped out, and we got stopped out of a short trade there, and looks like we're losing money on the short side because, like we said, we're running two-sided markets, and this market seems to be going one way at this time. I really enjoy this because it allows me to get a lot of trade statistics and see certain things, and test certain ideas that I may already have about the market. And being able to run it on super fast speed, I'm able to kind of test if these ideas are even real ideas, or if they're just things that I made up in my head over time. So right now this replay is running on 14 times speed, and you can see that we're in short trades. We got stopped out of a short trade there, and there we go, made money on the NASDAQ short side. Let's try to increase the speed of the replay as fast as possible. So now we're at times 26, and you might start to see a couple of lags. Remember, I am recording this on OBS, and this CPU is being used. Probably 11% of my CPU is being used by OBS right now. So last thing is, of course, when you're running a backtest like this, you absolutely want to not be running anything else on your PC while you're doing this. You want to make sure that your processing power is reserved for this backtest, especially if you're trying to run it on a very fast speed. Let's try and run it even faster here. Let's go all the way up to, I don't know, times 60 speed. And you can see that when I do that, you might start to see a couple of lags here. But the client-side conditions are all pretty fast. You can see that if your code is well optimized, it should be performing, it should be able to perform even at very high replay speed. But of course, there is a limit because, you know, hardware and all of that. I'm far from an expert here, but that's it, guys. So I hope this video helped you to increase the precision of your backtests, and I will see you guys in the next video. Let me know what you thought of it down below. Thank you. Take care.